Welcome to Mentors Collective. I've got David Balgi with me, founder of Impact Launch. He came all the way to Florida to come record in this studio, funnel hacking, like 4 years ago. And it's been fun watching you come a long way. I want to welcome you to the show and say thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, brother. This is awesome.
So I want to give a lot of value to right now to people who are listening to this and are coming up in their journey and they're facing all of those challenges and limiting beliefs as a young entrepreneur. Who were you? And a little bit about those challenges.
Yeah. So it was an interesting ride because I just kind of wanted to start a business when I was 16 is when I started. It was in 2017. I was 16 at the time.
Jesus.
And I never really knew what I wanted to do, but as anyone who's starting out finds the Gary V, the Grant Cardone, the Ty Lopez. So
Yeah.
I was going through Ty's stuff for a little bit, and I first started out with like the promo videos. So I'd go to local businesses and film their promo videos and stuff like that. And then I was like, this is a lot of work for such little money. So it just
Yeah.
didn't make any sense. And the camera equipment, I think I was charging like $450 per promo video, and it would take days to film and edit and all that stuff. And then I went deeper into Thai stuff about Facebook ads. So I went really deep into ads, and then I was doing like local businesses. I was changing it all up. I was doing real estate. I was doing detailing companies, restaurants. Obviously, it's not the smartest thing to do.
Learning phase. You just
Yeah.
do all of it and see what works.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So that was like, it was very shaky. But then as I started to network and meet a lot more people on Facebook, they would give me some guidance because I never really took courses. I kind of just did stuff through YouTube.
Right.
And then I started to get very serious into it. And then maybe 3 years into it, I found ClickFunnels, found that community, and started going super, super deep into it. But it was a very interesting come up because no one in my age group was doing that at all. High school, I think I was the only one that I knew.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Granted, we're probably a generation apart, but when I was growing up, there was no entrepreneurs, and we didn't really have TikTok and Instagram and YouTube with all of these like entrepreneur influencers glorifying the life and giving you advice and to an alternative to traditional education.
Yeah.
Was it everything that they made it look like it was on TikTok when you finally got in?
Definitely not. They don't talk about so I just tweeted about this. It's funny because they don't talk about the sleepless nights, skipping out on the parties, kicking out the old friends that hold you back, the blood, sweat, tears, everything that you go through. But it's not so much the end result that you shoot after. It's always the journey that you're striving for. Because when you think about it, you have all the money, you got all the cars, you got the house, the family, whatever. All right, you got everything, you traveled everywhere. What else are you going to do? Right? So there's no end destination, but what they don't talk about is the fulfillment that you get from it. And as human nature, we always have that goal seeking mentality, right? We always have to be accomplishing things. And so that's something that people don't talk about. They always sell the dream, they send the end result, or they sell the end result, but there really isn't an end result. It's always an ongoing journey.
Yeah. The chasing the rabbit. There's a couple entrepreneurs that talk about this, and it's really so powerful. I think I agree with you. As humans, when we stop growing, that's when we start to feel unfulfilled. As long as we're growing as people, our businesses are growing, then we're able to stay happy, stay motivated, and keep pushing through the sleepless nights and all of that pain. So 16 years old, that's a tough time to try and sell things, right? Who's going to buy from a 16-year-old? What were some of those challenges trying to, I guess, door knock and do work for people as an entrepreneur?
So I spent a lot of time cold calling, as anyone normally does when they start out. And what you don't realize is you lack a lot of skills when you're first starting out, especially when you're young. So you have to, there's a lot that goes into sales. There's the body language, the tonality, there's the experience. There's so much to understand when you're first starting out in sales, and not having that guidance, I literally figured it all out on my own because for some reason, I just never really thought about it, but I only took Jordan Belfort's straight line persuasion course. That was the only sales course that I took at the time for a couple of years.
Was it good?
Yeah, so he talked about it was sharp as attack, and there was it was like three things that he talked about. forget it now. I'd probably just do it normally. But there's 3 things that he talked about that any salesman has to have in order to present yourself as an authority. And that changed the game for me completely. So when I started going through that, it changed the way that I did cold calling, and I would receive a lot more respect because they can just tell with the way I presented myself to them. So that got me with my leg through the door. And then comes the part where they don't tell you, where everyone tries to sell you the business, but they don't sell you the skill. So they say, "Oh, you can get up to $10,000 per month," but then they don't tell you that in order to get there, you have to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
So not only am I trying to build a business, I'm also trying to build a skill set,
Right.
multiple skill sets: the sales, the networking, the actual ads, the marketing, the copywriting. It's a lot.
Yeah. When you're starting, you've got no leverage. You don't have a choice but to learn all of these things,
Exactly.
which
And
is, they don't tell you that.
and then the cash thing too.
Yeah.
A lot of the reasons why these businesses fail is because they don't have cash. So when you're starting out, you don't have anything, especially when you're young.
Got
You
time.
You have
That's it.
time,
Yeah.
right? And so I remember 2 incidents. I was in my math class and my accounting class. I was reading .com Secrets. The amount of times that the teacher took the book out of my hand. It's like she took a phone out of a kid's hand, but she took a book out of my hand because I kept reading that book during class. That was once. And then I remember I was reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I was so tired because these were the nights where I would stay up late and like till 3 a.m. reading.
College years?
This was high school.
High school. Wow.
So I would stay up late and I would have such a no energy. I just had no energy during the day. And so I was reading this one book and in my math class, and I accidentally like fell asleep, and I woke up to this one girl. She's like, "What, do you need help making friends?" Because she saw the title of the book, and I'm like, "All right, you got to be kidding me!" Like,
I mean, they don't get it.
They-
15-year-old kids in high school.
exactly. So I was
Concerned
like,
with like drinking beer for their first time, sex for the first time,
exactly. So I was like,
starting a business.
and she wasn't even like one of the quote unquote the popular girls. It's
Yeah.
like, you know. So that was that. But those were the years where there's a lot of work that has to be put through, but they don't tell you that.
It's crazy that you started that in high school and you didn't have a network of people who are doing that. Was your family entrepreneurial, or did you
A little
just
bit.
discover this kind of on social media?
A little bit. My dad definitely knows a lot about business.
Good.
So he has his own consulting as well. Definitely not in what I do, but just high level overarching ideas like he would guide me through.
How did it affect you socially in school? Were you like the cool kid with the business? Were you a recluse because you were doing something different than everybody else? What was that like?
Yeah. I was never part of the popular kid group. But it took a bit for me to find my group because I was like different, you know. I just didn't think the same as everyone else. And in high school, what people don't realize is there's a lot of fake people, and they all like high school is a big competition. So like everyone is trying to be the cool kid, right?
Yeah.
They always try to find that group. And so I would find these different groups that I'd be hanging out with. And I remember there was these 2 kids that were part of the group. And I remember I took a nap home once. And at this time, I was still filming real estate properties with the drone and whatever. And I wake up to a snap of saying, we're working hard, because they were also doing the same thing of filming properties for real estate. And they were like,
Mhm.
we're working hard while Alenia Films, which was my old company name, is barely working. And that was like the first time that I actually was like publicly humiliated in front of like everyone in my grade. And I was like, it was tough to deal with, but I knew that it's not going to be the only time.
Right.
And if I don't understand how to go through this, how else am I going to go through everything else when I get big?
How long did it take you to start making money in business? And when you're starting as an entrepreneur, it's
Mhm.
usually years of like really hard work before things finally start clicking. Were you making money in high school? You know, driving a Lambo your senior year? What was that like?
So for a couple of years, I was charging, a couple $100 for marketing, but these days, obviously, we know it's not that, that little. And so when I met one of my friends on Facebook, I was like, yeah, like, charge this guy like $450 a month for running his ads, filming his content, his managing his social media. And he's like, that's it? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm doing so much for him. He's like, yeah, you should be charging a lot more. I'm like, how much do you think? He's like, at that point, I was like, what?
Right. There's your Lambo right there.
Years, yeah, like 17, 18 years old, charging $2,000 a month per client. Like, just couldn't believe my eyes. And so I was like, all right, let me give it a try. So I met this one real estate investor in Jersey, which is where I'm from. And I built out his funnels. I built out his email lists. And he said, okay, how much is it? So I threw out a random number. I said $5,000. He took 5 seconds to think about it. Sat back. He's like, okay. I was like, in my head, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, cool. You know, like to him, I just kind of kept it normal.
Keep it cool.
Yeah. And then it was $5,000 for the funnel, and then continued at a $2,000 monthly price point. And at that point, that changed the whole game for me.
Right.
Because that was,
my God, I can charge more for this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just got fun.
Yeah. So that's when I learned. That was my first big client, and that changed the game, everything for me.
Amazing. When was that? How old were you?
4 years ago. So I want to say 2018. Or no, that was 6 years ago. So 2018, 2019, roughly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you started in high school, the accounting teacher taking .com secrets out of your hand. What did you think about traditional education? What you were learning in high school? Was it valuable to you? Did you want to continue pursuing that and doing business on the side? Walk me through your thought process in regards to that.
So it's a good question. I didn't really want to go to college at all. I always debated it, but it was so weird telling people that I just didn't really want to go, because everyone was so excited to go to college.
Oh, yeah.
And then in my head, I'm like, I really don't want to go. And people would think that this guy's an idiot. But I said, all right, whatever. So my parents really, really pushed me to go. They came from a difficult background, because they came to this country, from a very long time ago. So obviously, when you're an immigrant, you come over, it's very difficult to get your leg through the door and stuff like that. So I can understand where their point was coming from. So I just kept going with it, and I said, if I have to go to college, I'm just gonna make the best of it. I never once went to a party on my campus at all. I did go to my friends' colleges a little bit, but maybe once every 2 months. Very little. But that's about it. Mine, I did not go to a single party. And for my college, I commuted. So I purposely did not dorm either. One, because it was kind of too close. The other was because I just didn't want to.
Right.
I would take the train to get there, get my classes done, take meetings in between, and then leave right away, just so I can continue working at home.
What did you study in college?
So I did business administration, which is leadership and management. And everyone actually thought I would do marketing, but I took one marketing class. Yeah. I never did any.
I took one marketing class in college too, and maybe they've updated the marketing classes since I went, but I didn't learn a single useful thing.
It's funny you mention that, because this was an intro to marketing class, but for anyone who's watching, one advice I would say if you're going to learn marketing is learn from rich dead marketers, because they're the founders, the original people. And so I only saw Claude Hopkins, only him, from any of the marketers that we knew or currently know in that entire class. Nothing else. And it was just his name. He did not talk about anything of these people. So they would only teach like general marketing. It wasn't even direct response. It wasn't even Facebook ads. Or it was just like, here's posting on social media and getting brand awareness. And it's the most basic thing I've ever heard in my life. And shockingly, the guy actually ran a marketing agency. And I say that because a lot of the professors don't run their own business or have been in that field. I actually called out one of the accounting professors if she's ever ran an accounting business in front of a lecture. She goes, no, I haven't. And I kind of felt bad for her at the moment, but if you're going to teach us about how to run a marketing or a accounting,
you teach.
So at that point, that's when I knew, like, okay, just get it done, get out, and keep going.
Yeah. So you went to college mostly to appease your parents. 4 years, got a business degree, business administration. What were those 4 years like? You said you weren't partying too much. Were you growing the business? Were you go to class, come home, get back to work?
For the most part. Yeah, I would take calls in between, and it was interesting because sometimes I would take calls on the train, sometimes I would take calls in the most random areas. And
Yeah.
I remember I was part of one of the coaching companies, and they would always ask me like, "Dude, you're always in a different location every time we get on the phone." And I'm like, "Well, dude, I'm a college student. I got to do what I got to do." But it was funny, yeah, because I would not really go to any clubs. I think I joined one club or maybe two. It was like a real estate club and then some marketing one my freshman year, but just didn't continue with it.
And you said didn't go to any clubs. I'm like, well, you didn't party? You can go to
Different types
business
of clubs.
clubs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, my business club was just getting on the phone with my clients
Yeah.
and just actually helping them or watching courses or whatever.
The best experience, the best learning you ever do is hands-on.
Mhm.
Oh, I've got this client that needs this new funnel set up. I've never done this before. Better go figure out how to do that.
Mm.
Go watch some YouTube videos and find a creator that you like. Maybe buy his course. Figure out how to do that thing, and that's the education that matters.
I did have a group of friends, freshman into sophomore year, and then
Yeah.
it's funny because they all transferred out. One went to Arizona, one went to the other campus because our college has 3 different campuses. So he went to the other one, and then I had one buddy that actually graduated earlier, but he was actually business minded. Like he was kind of doing his thing as well. But that's really about it. I kind of just head down working the whole time.
Cool. And you mentioned that Ty Lopez was a big early inspiration for you. A lot of entrepreneurs, I think, struggle with figuring out what to do for business. They know they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't know what to start. And there's a lot of noise thrown at them. All these get rich quick schemes, drop shipping, marketing agency, faceless YouTube channels. What got your attention? What did you try? And then what actually worked?
It's a good question. So for some reason I stuck to Facebook ads. I don't know why, but I just kept going with it. But that's not really normal because of how much noise there is today. But at that time, that's when drop shipping kind of just started to
Yeah.
grow. And it was drop shipping or ads, and then the Facebook, the Amazon FBA started to come into. And today, I would say it's a lot more difficult to stick to one thing because when people don't see a return right away, they'll jump to the next thing.
Right.
They'll go into like day trading, they'll go into just anything.
Yeah, they try everything. It's the shiny object syndrome. Look at how
Exactly.
much money he's making doing that. I better go do that.
Exactly. Right. And so people will market and say, oh, I made $100,000 this month selling this product. We know that's not profit. Like, right.
Or
So
look how much money I'm making doing this. Buy my
Exactly.
course. I'll teach you how to do it too.
Exactly. Right. So there was a lot going on. And as humans, we tend to still have shiny object syndrome in very interesting areas of life because when you're on social media, you're scrolling through how many posts a day. That's also a bit of shiny object syndrome too. You don't stick to one thing, you just keep going to the next. And so you develop the brain to have a very short attention span. Whereas if we didn't have any of that, and I only told you that you have to do this and you have to stick to it, you would have done it, right? Because there's no other option for you, right? So these days, people will suffer immensely with the shiny object. But I guess the secret is, and what Hermosi has been really talking about, is just doing the boring work. I had a conversation with a friend 2 days ago. We're having cigars. He said he's in a sales position now for an online coach. And he said it took him nearly 10 months to make his first dollar from the position of just closing sales. And I'm like,
Jesus.
no one would have stayed as long as you.
No,
No one.
I wouldn't have.
Right? Because there's no light until you get to month 9. And so the fact that he persevered that far is why he's able to close over 1.5 million for this guy alone.
Yeah.
When people are pursuing some sort of business opportunity, you have to be able to persevere through it because it's never, if it was a quick win, everyone would do it. But obviously that's not the case.
Right. Social media too. People will expect things to change overnight. They'll build a business, expect to do $1 million their first year. It's almost never the case. Alex Hormozzi's quote, the work just needs to get done.
Yeah.
It's true. I think it took us 2 years before anything impressive happened. I mean, this
Mhm.
building wasn't even a thought at that time.
Yeah.
It was me and him in our apartment for the first 2 years
Wow.
with like 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Wow.
But you keep at it, you make things work, you build an organization, you build systems, and that's when things really start to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I still kind of go through the shy object syndrome, but just like you said, when you put your head down to something, you persevere through it.
Yeah.
I think looking back over, it's been almost, I think next month will be 7 years sticking to the Facebook ads, sticking to the funnels. Like, yeah, we've had some ups and downs, just like you have, just like everyone else has had. But when you have a set vision and you shoot for it every single day, as cliche as it sounds, but it's so true,
Mhm.
right? I mean, look where we are now, just because you guys stuck through the entire path.
Yeah. And I have shiny object syndrome too. I've
Mhm.
seen people, making millions a month doing that thing. I'm like, we should probably do that or
Yeah.
start that.
Mhm.
Or doing a whole bunch of new leads with this new marketing. And
Mhm.
we should try that.
Yeah.
But if you double down on what works, eventually it pays off in the
Mhm.
long run. But it's tough. It's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially when you go to all of these events,
Yeah.
that's a big thing
Yes.
that'll throw you off.
Let's talk about events. I think when we first met, there's a really interesting story. I was with some of my friends, some were very successful. And then you did something to get into this group and like hang out with us. Tell us what you did. Thought it was
So,
genius.
so I was with Kai, who was working at Valuetainment at the time, and we were out to cigars, and I met Adam, and so it was, I think Kai connected me to Adam, and then Adam connected me to you and everyone else. But before that, me and Kai were out to cigars, and I'm a big cigar guy, right? I don't smoke it too often, but I love the aesthetics of cigars. I like understanding it. I like that the handmade aspect of it and all that stuff.
It's a
I
great
like
social thing too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I knew that there were some people who did enjoy cigars. So I shot a text. I said, "Who's there? How many? Any preferences?" So some knew, some not. So I said, okay. I already did my research. I know a bit about cigars at the time, and so I picked out some really good ones. And I came over, met up with everyone, and I just handed out the cigars. I said, "Who wants a cigar?" Like everyone rose their hand, just started handing them out. Got the lighter, cutter, and I guess that's how we kind of met. Everyone was
Yeah.
like in a circle and
Yep. Bunch
chatting
of
away.
millionaires. David shows up with a box
Yeah,
of cigars, and we all end up smoking cigars and networking.
yeah,
So I think for young entrepreneurs who are going to these events
mhm,
and they want to meet and network and learn stuff and be a part of circles, do something like that.
yeah,
Such a great gesture to sit down, make new friends. I thought that was great. That was like 4 years ago now.
yeah, almost.
Have you been doing a lot of conferences, networking events? How have you really, as a young guy, like built friends that are doing well in the entrepreneurial community?
It's a good question. So with events, what I will say is you got to be very careful because a lot of events like to pitch stuff.
Yeah.
Solely the reason is to pitch, but other events like to add value and then pitch. Obviously, they're going to pitch. They're marketers. So, I remember when I first started to go to events, it was just pure pitch. I remember Grant Cardone spoke at one, but he didn't actually speak. He was on like a Zoom call, and there was maybe 10,000 people at this event. And I strictly went to this event because I knew he was going to be there. And I was so disappointed that he was just on a Zoom. It is what it is. But when it comes to like marketing events, I mean, we can probably agree that ClickFunnels is a great event. They do teach a lot of good stuff there. Yeah, he pitches at the end, but I think it's a very, very community as well.
It is a great community.
Yeah.
My first couple years there, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Which is great 'cause it's like drinking out of a fire hose. All these marketers on stage who have had success
Mm-hmm.
in their various offers and marketing strategies,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of giving you lots of ideas of what's working so that you can try and navigate what you're going to do yourself. I got a lot of great ideas early on.
Yeah, that, and I feel like when you're picking an event, I found out that the best way to do that is when you are in a program or you have a coach and they host an event. I think that's the best one
Mm-hmm.
because there's more trust built there where you know the guy, you know his intentions, you know that hopefully he's actually helping you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's going to be worthwhile because then you also know some people there. So those people can connect you to everyone else.
How do you find a program and a coach that you can trust? I don't think I have any.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. I these days I usually do it word of mouth. So I've done, I mean, traffic and funnels. I've been through scaling with systems. Scaling with systems was a great program, and I'm very public about it because they deserve it. And I found them through YouTube. And I think in this day and age, it's very important that we acknowledge why content is important, as obviously as cliche as it sounds. But I had a dinner with Dan Kennedy, direct response copywriter, and at ClickFunnels.
Hmm.
And so he said, in this economy, reputation is what controls the money. Everyone buys because they trust you, your personality, and your reputation. And so I bought into that program. Was the reason was because I watched a couple YouTube videos and automatically I built trust with him and his personality. I really enjoyed him and what he did,
Hmm.
and it turned out a great success. So you have to be very self-aware about who these people are that are putting all this content out, and try and sniff out the BS, because there's a lot out there. It's very,
Yeah.
very difficult to network with people and figure out which would be the best, but also understand that, some people are trying to get a referral
Of course.
fee out of it. So just be
Yeah. So
careful
word
with
of
that.
mouth can be dangerous too.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just be very meticulous with it and don't overdo it too. Because what you'll realize is a lot of these coaching programs are very similar, but they just package it differently,
Yeah.
right?
Knowledge is all knowledge. It's out there.
Yeah. And what people don't know is that it's just applying it.
Yeah.
That's
That's
the
the
hard
tricky
part.
part.
That's the tricky part.
You mentioned there's a lot of BS information floating around. I agree with you. I actually made a video yesterday about Hermosi and school. And it seems to me like he's driving a lot of new entrepreneurs into the course and community business, which I think is a huge mistake. I think it's going to be
Interesting.
very dangerous for the entrepreneurial community with the
Yeah.
flood of BS courses that are going to start popping up.
Yeah. I
Try,
never thought about it like that.
yeah. I think it's a great business model. I
Yeah.
have my own course. It's very profitable. It's one of the most fulfilling things that I've done as an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
But I feel like that's something that I earned after like building an agency for 10 years, giving value for free on YouTube for years.
Hmm.
Like now I can sell a course.
Hmm.
For if you're just starting out and you're looking to like get rich quick, or you're looking for your first business model, I feel like that is the worst thing that you should start. What's your
Yeah.
opinion there?
So it's good that you mentioned that, because there is going to be a wave of
Yeah.
that. And when I heard this concept, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Tate or Hermosi, but they said first you get paid for what you do, then you get paid for who you are. And with courses, it's difficult to sell a course if no one knows who you are.
Yes.
And one of the aspects of knowing who you are is your track record. Track record is one, but also publicity is number two. So if you have not built the skill of, first you get paid for what you do, it's very difficult to sell a course, because no one knows. There's no the results that you've brought in, right? I mean, people come to you because of your brand and what you guys do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in it for 10 years, right? So you've built up the skill set, but now it's like you guys are very brand oriented, like auto PR is getting very big, right? So people see you guys all over the place, and now they're coming more so to you, right? And on top of the really good service, that's just adding on to it. So first you get paid for what you do, then you get paid for who you are. And if people don't acknowledge that, it's going to be very difficult to compete.
Right. How are you going to sell a course and convince people to join your community
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that recognition and that trust and that track record?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is going to happen with all these new entrepreneurs that Hermosi is pushing into the school competition? Do you think they're going to be successful? Do you think, what do you think is going to happen?
It's a good question. I think it's going to open a lot of opportunities on how to become successful within the school community. So it's like a school community for building a school community.
Yeah.
But it's also following Russell Brunson's linchpin model, which is the continuity. So a lot of the big dogs are doing that now, where instead of doing a full high ticket one time for 3-4 months, they're doing a reoccurring. So Russell's doing that. Ravi's doing that. A lot of these, Taylor Welch is doing that. Like a lot of these big dogs are doing that. So I'm very interested to see how it's going to play out, because there's so much that could happen. I'm just trying to see like how it would play out, because people will want to sell a program for $37 a month, or something like that. But then it might have a very low success rate because everyone's going to think it's easy,
Right.
but it's not. It's very difficult.
It's one thing paying for information. It's another thing actually making it work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think the best programs succeed is how much support can you give your members
Yes.
outside of just here's the info,
Mm-hmm.
here's how to actually apply it. Here's what happens if you hit a roadblock along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's nuanced and most people can't be handed a course and then
Yeah.
take it and apply everything perfectly right away.
Mm-hmm. I think what would be interesting is they might get an influx of people coming in, but then they can't keep up with the support needed. So like you might have a course that's $37 a month, but there's 500 people coming through and everyone's posting in the community. There might be, spam and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants support, right? I know some people who have some really big communities on there. I think yours is pretty big too.
Over 5,000 members now.
Already.
Yeah.
Holy.
Not my paid community. I have the free
The free
community,
one,
and then I've
yeah.
got the insiders, which is the paid community.
You recently launched the fund, right?
In the last like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. I think I joined when it was like 1.5 thousand.
Nice.
Yeah. So 5,000 now.
Yeah, over 5,000. Let's check. Let's see how we're
Wow.
doing.
That's incredible, dude.
It's been a really cool journey, and with school's done a really good job of getting people to engage.
Yeah.
So I've put in a couple bonuses that people
Mhm.
can unlock if they engage. So it is a very active community. It's really cool. I don't go in there too much anymore, but
Yeah.
just when I do and I see how alive it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's really incredible.
Yeah. I think the other thing, what I've noticed, I have this
5,200.
5,200. That's really good. I have this one friend, I believe he lives in Washington or somewhere out in the Northwest, but he found a way to gamify the Facebook groups. And I heard about it last year. He's in Kurosi's group,
Mm-hmm.
and it blew my mind because it went off of a system, a leadership board
Kind of like school, but he was able
Kinda
to
like
do it
school.
in Facebook groups.
in Facebook, all automated. And so
Yeah.
when people would like the post or age or whatever, they would get points, and they were awarded based off of that. And I thought this was brilliant. And
They should put it in every community because it really
100%.
does change the game.
100%.
Yeah.
And so now when school comes out with it, with the leaderboard, that's one of my favorite features.
Yeah, that's the reason I chose school over the
Mhm.
competitors. In all honesty, school is less advanced than
Yeah.
a lot of its close competition. Circle.so, Mighty Networks, they have
Yeah.
way more features.
But less is more, right?
Yeah, less is more, simplicity is more, and engagement within a community is the most valuable thing about
Mhm.
having the community. I mean, where you host your information doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
How active the community is, that's the money.
That's the hard part too.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
hard part.
But if you can get the community to build it for you, just like how Facebook was built, that's called the network effect.
Right.
And it takes off on its own. But it's very difficult to do that. So if these people coming onto school can figure out the network effect, can figure out the leadership and gamifying the system, it'll be very successful.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing for you to build it for the people, but then when the people build it for you, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they've done a great job. Now we've got moderators and people who are
Mhm.
responding to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very cool. The piece of advice that I gave in my video that I filmed yesterday was don't listen to Hermosi, don't start a course, don't start a community. Instead, sell the shovels. Sell to the people who are flocking in to build courses and communities because they're going to need help.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need help driving traffic into their communities, editing their course videos, personal branding to build trust and authority so that people actually sign up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think going straight into the course and community business is a problem. And it sounds like you're selling the shovels. Is that correct? What are you doing related to course creators?
Yeah, basically selling the shovels. So the lead gen, which is the paid ads, email campaigns, funnels, really just depends. We try and keep it very lean team, or lean team, lean systems for that. But that is one of the most brilliant concepts of selling the shovels.
I just made that up. I was totally original from me.
Really?
No. The 1840s California gold
Yeah.
rush. Everyone was going to California to try and get rich mining gold.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first year, everybody that showed up didn't find any gold.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd show up and someone would be there to sell them a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
People who got rich consistently were the ones selling the shovels.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people doing that model very indirectly.
Yeah.
Selling like the how to start a business and it gives them the keys to doing it, but then you got to figure out the rest on your own.
Yeah.
But they have become ultra successful. Like Iman Gadzi, for example. I mean, his course is 1,000, maybe $1,500, but he gives you all the basics, but then you kind of have to keep going on your own after some point.
Have you gone through Mengadzi's course?
A while ago, I
Yeah.
did.
Was it good?
At the time, it was good, but I feel like he's. I haven't gone through it recently, but just from what I'm hearing, it's decent.
Yeah.
Um,
He sells a ton of courses.
Yeah.
997 right now.
yeah,
And he's the guy who sells marketing courses.
yeah.
Unbelievably successful YouTuber.
He's a very brilliant marketer.
Yeah.
He's very brilliant. He's been in the game for a very long time, but his isn't very different from anyone else, but he's a brilliant marketer. And I've been following him very closely recently about how he does his quote events, but they're webinars.
Yeah.
And he does like a 3-day event, a 5-day event, and it's just storytelling. And the most recent one he did was very high production. So he started off the first video about, like, he dressed up as his dream customer, and he played the role of them being drunk, them going out, losing a job, and it's like, what do I do now? And when you're watching it, you imagine that's how you are. And so that takes it to a whole new level, because in copywriting and sales and marketing, you have to get inside the prospect's head, and he visually displays that. So that's why he's able to make $1, $2, $3 million every video that he puts out.
Crazy.
He's a brilliant marketer.
He's a great storyteller.
Yeah.
His top of funnel is unbelievable.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Millions of followers on YouTube, bunch of kids who want to get rich,
Mm-hmm.
fix their lives, and he sells them the dream
Mm-hmm.
for $997.
Yeah.
And I hope the product's good. I haven't taken it myself.
Yeah.
I actually went through his funnel to try and like funnel hack it a little bit, see
Yeah.
what he was doing.
Smart.
I was a little bit shocked at a few of the things that I think he was missing.
Really.
He's barely running any ads.
Yeah.
I would run retargeting ads. Anyone who hits that page should be getting retargeted for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. No retargeting ads.
Well, it's exclusivity.
I guess. You think
That's
that's
what-
it?
I think that's what it is, because they only let a few spots in, like a couple hundred, maybe like 500, 1,000, maybe.
You can sign up right on the website.
Well, discounted,
Yeah.
but then they just maybe full price it. Could just be marketing though.
Right. It's
We
all
never know.
probably just marketing.
Yeah.
I run retargeting ads for my course. They work
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. So do you run the web? Do you do any webinars of VSLs, or how do you market?
I've been doing this for like 2 months.
Okay.
I'm like figuring this out as I go. So I'd love, maybe we could sit down after, do a little hack.
Yeah.
But no, top of funnel's YouTube. We
Okay.
drive people into the free course
Mhm.
with the lead magnet. We serve them retargeting ads.
Mm.
We point them to the paid course page. I had it professionally done by someone who follows me on Instagram. They did an awesome job.
Nice.
Little VSL on there. I've been increasing the price since I released it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're at $595 right now. One
Okay.
time. We're gonna split it up into 2 payments.
That's not bad.
No, it's going up to $997 in March. I've been adding modules.
This is the lead gen.
Yeah,
Yep.
lead gen course. What I've noticed was a lot of people signing up aren't really interested in generating leads for their business. They're lead gen agencies or wanting to start lead gen agencies.
Interesting.
Interesting. This is I didn't know when I made the course. So I've been kind of like fiddling with the titles and the landing page and some of how I sell the course to sell more to lead gen agencies and people that want to start lead gen agencies.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's a very competitive market. So you have to get big on branding and marketing for that, because everyone does that.
Lead gen agencies?
Yeah. So
I don't think I've seen a course for that specifically, how to start a lead gen agency.
lead gen or marketing agency?
Lead gen. Marketing's broad,
Yeah.
lead gen specific. So right now, the title that's working really well on my landing page is like how to generate leads on autopilot for your company and for your clients. So
That's different.
yeah,
Yeah. Because usually it's one or the other,
yeah.
but it's usually never both.
But lead gen agencies, they do want to generate leads for themselves and they want to have success for their clients. So they get the best of both worlds.
Which is the two biggest problems that they usually have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
That's smart.
Seems to be working, but I would love to figure out like the webinar thing,
Yeah.
the VSL thing. I don't do any of that.
So it's funny because webinars are kind of slowly going down
Yeah.
only because of how the attention span is. It's very interesting because you could still have good success with a short VSL.
Yeah.
And because the market is the majority of like in our coaching industry slash, online service, it's pretty large. So there's a lot of market share. For more so B2B or, a longer sales process, you're probably going to want a webinar because the sales process is a little bit longer. It's
Yeah.
a lot more sophistication that goes through it. But if it's something like the coaching industry or, online service provider, VSLs can actually work that are 10, 15, 20 minutes. They don't have to be 2 hours long.
Yeah. Good, because
know?
I don't want to make a 2 hour long video, but I think it
Yeah.
would be helpful to get in there,
For sure.
teach them something that's like behind the curtains from the actual course,
Mm-hmm.
give them an offer, make it, maybe do a couple live, and then run an evergreen webinar funnel.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what I'm after we're done here.
Yeah.
Maybe you can poke some holes in it. It could be
For
fun.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of value. Like
Yeah.
when I see someone that leads with value,
Yeah.
like you can take my credit, it's fine.
That's why I think it's been so successful and easy to sell these courses, because I've
Mhm.
been giving nothing but value on YouTube for
Yeah.
years.
I mean, look at
I've got the-
Hormozy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You build all of that trust and goodwill. So when
Yeah.
he says do something, people do it
Mhm.
without thinking. That's why he's got thousands of new members signing up
Yeah.
for school. Oh, man. A lot of opportunity for new entrepreneurs right
Yeah.
now to sell some shovels.
Yeah. 100%. And I think what you're building with lead gen is definitely one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So with all of these people starting courses and communities, say some of the people watching want to start their own.
Mhm.
What is a good roadmap for them to follow? How can they be successful and have the best chance of succeeding?
So when I was in college, I would go through a lot of hardships, and my dad would always tell me, he's like, why don't you work for someone first, build up the skill? And I never like understood that because I would always think that he would tell me to work for some corporate company and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, I don't want to do it. Like, it's not going to help me. Like, I'll just figure it out on my own. And then I realized that it's very difficult to scale if you do not have a good skill set, if you do not have a good product, because the product almost will sell itself. Something that Dan Kennedy talks about, where like if you take a look at Tesla doesn't run any ads. Why? Because the product is so good it sells itself, right? So when you have the skill set, you have all the power. I mean, Elon can build $1 billion company within a year, but it would take the average human maybe 40 years of every single day working their butt off because
Yes.
they don't have the skill set. But Elon has a skill set. So what I would recommend for someone who's starting out is focus on skill set. Do not focus on revenue. Revenue is good to help you get into programs, get more knowledge, networking, stuff like that. But do not focus of creating the most amount of wealth or cash flow initially, because you cannot create that if you do not have the skill. So if you can learn to build the skill first with a couple of clients, and then maybe even go and work for someone in your industry who is doing everything else, and you can focus on one skill set. As an entrepreneur, we're focusing on sales, marketing, team, hiring, finances, everything.
Yeah.
But when you focus down on one skill, whether it's sales or copywriting or whatever it may be,
Lead generation.
lead generation, you're 100% on that skill set. You become a master at that skill set. But a lot of these people who are just starting out don't fully see that, and people don't talk about that. So if you're just starting out, you need to pick one skill set and go forward with it for a very long time. We're talking minimum 6 to 12 months, absolutely minimum. What I would recommend, very high income skill is copywriting, sales, because there's no cap to how much you can really make. And a lot of those are through experience. So sales, you just have to get the reps in consistently. Copywriting, you have to write. A lot of these things are basically just doing it at the end of the day. You can only learn so much from training.
Reps and feedback. One thing that I cannot find a good person to help with is cold email copy. A very niche type of copywriting. I still have to write most of the copy. myself. It's a very niche thing. So if anyone's looking for a high income, high leverage skill to learn that. You're going to be set.
Cold copy.
Cold email copy. It's a very type of copy. It involves a
Yeah.
lot of psychology,
Does.
knowledge across different industries.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's especially like figuring out what somebody's going to open, how much you can say before you lose their attention or you scare them off, what calls to action to use based on the person or industry you're reaching out to. It's difficult.
I think what would help is studying, like if you're a young person in college right now, if you could take psychology courses, I would have 100% taken them, because copywriting and sales is all psychology and understanding from a third person perspective of how the other person thinks when you are not that person.
Right. It's interesting. Single words can trigger very powerful emotions.
Yeah.
The word imagine, through that in the landing page immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Increase retention on the landing page by like 6%. It's cool.
Yeah. And, you know, a quick thing about cold traffic is it's all about attention. So if you're a very creative person and you know how to get attention, it's really going to help.
Yeah.
Right. Because cold traffic is basically people don't know you, so why should they trust you? So how quickly can you build trust with that person?
Yep. You got a few seconds to spark their interest, grab their attention, build their trust, and then get them to take action.
Yeah.
It is one of the hardest things that people underestimate in marketing.
But once you figure it out, it's very fruitful.
Very. Attention is the most precious commodity. If you can figure out how to control it and command it, that's everything. So, David, young entrepreneurs out there, if you were starting from scratch today, what business model would you choose? What would you do, knowing what you know now?
I would do something that does not take a lot of capital to start up. So as long as you have a phone, internet, and a laptop, I would probably recommend either sales or copywriting. If you can narrow down into one micro like industry or skill set of one of those,
Yeah.
I would stick to that. For example, copywriting. If you did sales letters are very lengthy, so they're kind of hard to like master. But if you did like email list management,
Yeah.
or even something super simple like Instagram post captions,
Yeah.
and then you start to
Get very good and very niche.
yeah. First comes the skill set that you have to learn. But I definitely wouldn't do something that costs you money, like drop shipping or day trading. Like, just
If it sounds like a scam, avoid it.
yeah, yeah.
You know what those things are.
Yeah, if it sounds like scam, definitely avoid it. I think marketing is very fruitful. No matter what business you're in, you're gonna have to learn marketing.
Yes.
I mean, I know, one of the business owners that I work with now, they're on track to do $100 million a year. And he recently stepped a little bit out of the marketing, and they're doing multi 8 figures. And he has his touch points inside of the marketing. It's like the last thing that he took out.
I still do all of our marketing. I've got people
There
that
you go.
help me like execute the vision, but yeah, it's the hardest thing to. You'd have to hire someone for like $1 million to come in and do what I do.
Yep.
It's a crazy thing. So yes, learn marketing.
Yeah.
Niche forms of marketing.
Yeah. That's what I would recommend. And I think, if you do a marketing agency, you're going to deal with a lot of competition, but over time you'll figure out how to stand out differently. It always comes down to the offer, solving a specific problem for a specific person.
Yeah.
That is the key.
I do Instagram captions for course creators.
There you go.
Get very niche with what you do and who you serve, and
then
all the
get good at it.
competition disappears.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love that. Started at 16. You read .com Secrets, How to Win Friends and Influence People. What are your book recommendations for the 16-year-olds that are listening and want to start a business? What should they read?
I think so. It starts with mindset first. So with mindset, I think my top 3 books.
Top 3 books.
Definitely changed my life. The concept of looking at things from a different perspective is something that's changed the way that I deal with challenges. So that's one of them. In terms of mindset, there's so many out there. But I think keeping it very simple is also something to remember. Psycho-Cybernetics was a great book. It's a difficult one to understand, because it talks about the self-image of how you basically perceive yourself. And it uses a lot of analogies like the servo mechanism, right? It talks about mechanical things, comparing it to the human brain. And I think that's a very, very important one to read because your self-image determines your level of competence, your level of confidence, and how you see yourself. And when you see yourself as, something greater, you're able to perform at a greater level.
Right.
But when you don't have that, you don't perform as much as you think you could. So that's another one. I think the slight edge, is that more mindset?
Slight Edge.
Yeah.
I've never read that one, or Cybernetics.
That's a good one. Talks about that book
Does he?
all the time.
I'll check those out.
Yeah.
I feel like the farther along I've gotten, any of like mindset books have been, I pick them up, put them right down. It's more tactical leadership. Like,
Yeah.
what are billionaires doing? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, and not that I've mastered mindset, because you never master mindset.
Yeah.
But when you're young, I feel like it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause you're unsure about yourself. You're not sure that you can make it. You're still like figuring out how to get yourself to work those long hours
Mm-hmm.
and get through it. Now I just work long hours and I love it, which I think was the goal with all those books. It's just be able to work 12, 14 hours a day
Mm-hmm.
and love every second of it.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there was one more at it. I forgot what it was.
What about tactical marketing books?
Tactical marketing books? Write a good advertisement is definitely a great book. Breakthrough Advertising is another phenomenal copywriting book. It's evergreen is why they're really good. And you want evergreen because no matter what the market currently is, it will never change.
I've never written a copywriting book.
Really?
No, I should. I do a
Yeah.
lot of copy.
So Breakthrough Advertising,
I'm gonna write that
what
down.
I would recommend, and so you can't get it on Amazon because it recently came back into print, but you can get it for like $125, $120 on the website, the Breakthrough Advertising website. But it is by far the best advertising copywriting book I've ever read.
Better for $120. That is an expensive book.
Yeah. What I will say is you should, and well, actually, you must read the first 4 chapters 4 times before continuing, because those 4 chapters will pave the way for however else you write all of your copy. It talks
Wow.
about sophistication, the level of awareness, right? Those 2 are very, very important. It's by Hugh Schwartz, so Rich Dad marketers, right? Rich Dad copywriters.
Yep.
So those 2 are great. Expert Secrets is a great book. I
It
think
was a great book.
it talks about like how to present yourself, right, as the expert. I think that's a really good book. In terms of tactics, Extreme Ownership is a great book by Jocko.
Mm-hmm.
John Maxwell is pretty good with leadership.
Did you read Hermosi's books? What did you
Oh
think?
yeah, incredible books.
Yeah.
I mean, $100 million offers, $100 million leads. Those are very good, but it's a lot of information overload.
Yeah. I feel like it's also very, here's the concepts that work. Actually doing it is like, how do you make an offer so good people can't say no and fulfill on that offer? That's the tricky part that people have a hard time implementing.
Mm-hmm. He puts a lot of tactics in the leads book.
Yeah.
But I think it's a double-edged sword because, there's a lot of info, but it's too much info sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to pick one and roll with it.
It is a lot, and it's not specific, which I think is on purpose too,
Yeah.
because what's working now might not work tomorrow.
Yeah.
The tools and platforms that you're advertising today on might not exist tomorrow, and I think he had that in mind. So again, surface, you have to dive deep. There's nuance into everything that he says, but he does actually give you tactics and information that you can use. So does Russell and his trilogy. I think that was a great series.
Yeah. There's also, instead of going to too many books, the other concept that people should remember is humans need to be reminded more than they are taught. So there's only so much you can learn that you will retain and actually implement. But then it comes down to the point where you actually have to implement it and do it. So that's also a reason why you hire coaches, to more so remind you.
Yeah,
Right?
accountability. It's everything.
Exactly. Right?
I just paid a coach $12,000 for the next 2 months
Yeah.
to teach me short form content,
Uh-huh.
but mostly to hold me accountable to what I learn and make sure I'm actually implementing all of this stuff. Hope it works. You see, 2 months from now, be famous on Instagram.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing goes for one of the recent I had, where I would just get on the phone and he would tell me do X, Y, and Z. And I said, okay. And then I'll book another call with him and next week later and be like, actually, I kind of want to do this. And he's like, no, that's not going to work because of X, Y, and Z. I told you you should, do this because this is what will happen.
Yep. Hey, stay focused, David.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But that's needed because we're human.
Yeah. Shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
We are human. All right, David. For people who want to learn more about you, maybe contact you to help out with some funnels, some courses, some ads, where's the best place to do that?
So I usually am active on Instagram and slowly going to be building my YouTube over time.
Good. That would be
Uh,
my advice to anyone starting new is just start on YouTube.
Yeah,
Teach whatever you're learning. So good.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need any help with the YouTube.
of course, I got to get a beautiful studio like this.
No, you do it on your phone. Don't make excuses.
Yeah. But my Instagram is just at David Balji, Balji. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
We'll link your socials down in the description. And thank you for coming, brother. This was fun.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. Yeah.